chronic anxiety, chronic stress. Most people have said, would agree they've experienced bouts of those in their lives. We're going to talk about anxiety tonight, particularly what I like to call good anxiety. So here is the secret take home to this entire talk. Anxiety plus science equals power. We're going to talk about anxiety tonight, particularly what I like to call good anxiety. But I want to start with the real star of our show, which is the human brain. So I'm going to focus on two key brain areas tonight. One is the prefrontal cortex, right here, right behind your forehead. This allows us to shift and focus our attention. The second brain area I'm going to focus on is deep within these two lobes right here, which are the temporal lobe, which sit kind of behind the ear. So deep in the structure of the temporal lobes is a structure called the hippocampus. The second star of the show is brain plasticity. Just so everybody's on the same page, brain plasticity is the amazing ability of the adult brain to change in response to experience. Give you an example of brain plasticity. Let's say you are somebody where, you need a little bit of brain help. Let's say your brain looks like this. With brain plasticity, says that certain kinds of experiences will take a brain that might look or feel like that to the big, fat, fluffy brain that you see on the right-hand side of the slide with all the best areas, the donut area, the TV area, all those great areas. That direction is called positive brain plasticity. Unfortunately, in biology, what goes up can also come down. So the big, fat, fluffy brain on your right can go back to the brain on the left with different kinds of experiences, and that's called negative brain plasticity. The positive plasticity will be how we get from bad anxiety to good anxiety. If anxiety was as bad as everybody pretends it is or thinks it is, that pretends, then it would have evolved out of our society a long time ago. The truth is that 2.5 million years ago, anxiety was critical for our survival. It helped steer us away from those dangerous situations so we can live the lives we're living today. And you say, okay, that's great for somebody living 2.5 million years ago, but I'm just inundated with anxiety. How can you argue that that is good right now? And I totally agree. So the first way, the first step to get to good anxiety is to learn how to turn the volume down on our society and our worlds. I'm going to start with the very favorite anxiety-reducing technique from my book, Good Anxiety. This is my favorite one. It's called joy conditioning. I have a trick that could buoy joy and the memory of joy in your life, and that is repetition. When's the last time you sat down for a weekend and went through, gosh, what were the most joyous memories in my life? What were the best parties? When did I laugh the most with my friends? When did I have the most amazing vacations? That form of rehearsal of joyous memories strengthens what that hippocampus I showed you here does normally. But you have to do it. It doesn't do it on its own. And when I thought about this, I didn't think about my joyous memories nearly enough. Tool number 2, physical activity, exercise. This is something that I've studied in my lab at New York University for many, many years. Every single time you move your body, you give your brain a bubble bath of neurochemicals. And the best way I have to show you exactly how exercise can turn the volume down on your anxiety is shown in the next slide. Here is a list of brain chemicals. All of these that you see on the left-hand side of the slide, they increase with even a single bout of moving your body. 10 minutes of walking has been shown to significantly decrease levels of anxiety and depression. This is in people that don't have clinical levels of depression or anxiety, which means most of us in this room. So we are going to do the experiment to see what just a minute and a half of moving our bodies does. So I'm going to ask you all to stand up. 4, 3, 2, 1. Go right, left, right, left. Puncher, right, left, right, left. I say, I am strong now. You say it. All right, cut the music. Woo! And you know what we just did? We just gave our brains a bubble bath together. So we've just bathed our brains together, and we made our brains happy. And that is something very, very powerful today, to be able to know how to do. Now we're happy. We're as a group, we're in a happy mood. Now you can sit back and perhaps think back on those anxiety-infused moments of your day and ask the simple question, what do those uncomfortable emotions that I label as anxiety tell me about my life? What does your worry tell you about what is important to you? So many students, I'm worried about my grades. Oh, I can't get out of it. And the first answer that I give is, that's beautiful. You are here in college. Of course you're worried about your grades. Now, that is a beautiful sentiment to have. Let's change the volume. But that original sentiment is great. How does that land with you? This is not just a trick. It is getting to the flip side, the powerful side of anxiety, and in fact, all these difficult emotions, including fear. So what happens when you step on the other side of anxiety and start to realize, oh, it's just pointing me in a direction? I'm here to tell you that there are superpowers of your anxiety. I'm going to start with the easiest one for every single one of you to implement: superpower of productivity. Now, this is based on a very, very common form of anxiety, which is the what if list. What if that email landed wrong? What if they don't say yes when I ask them out on a date? What if that what if list turns into a to-do list? Let's tackle the hard one. What if the person doesn't, say yes to that date? Well, maybe you could go and ask their friends, describe your strategy to 3 different friends that you really trust, and they will then reassure you that, there's no guarantee, but just talking it through will decrease your anxiety. We're going to go into a high-level example of anxiety. And this is a very personal story. My mom called, and she said, your dad isn't feeling very well. And in fact, he told me that he got lost driving back from the 7-Eleven that he had been driving back and forth from for the last 25 years to get his afternoon cup of coffee. That was a big red flag. It eventually was diagnosed as Alzheimer's. A lot of anxiety there, a lot of unknown. As a 3rd-generation Japanese American, you can think of our family like a Asian version of Downton Abbey. We're very polite and, not very demonstrative. As adults, we never said to each other, my parents, to my brother and I love you. And when my father got this diagnosis of dementia, I realized in my anxiety that I wanted to start saying this to my parents. But how do I do that? Do I just blurt it out? Just start saying it all of a sudden? That didn't feel right. I had to do something really scary, which was to ask permission. Now, my dad at this moment, he could have a fine conversation, but he couldn't remember whether it was Christmas or Thanksgiving that I was visiting. There was a deficit in his memory. And so I finished this conversation with my dad, and I asked him the question, can we say, I love you? And he said, yes. And I hung up, and I burst into tears because I had never said I love you to my parents as an adult. But it was a beautiful moment, and even then I realized that something had shifted in the culture of my family, and that I knew I did something really, really scary. that got me over my anxiety. But here's the flip side of that power. The next week I called, and I was getting ready to remind him that we had agreed to do this. Because he couldn't remember from one week to the next, but he could have a nice, coherent, general conversation. My dad surprised me because he said, "I love you" first. And as a neuroscientist, I know why. Because emotional resonance, the fact that his adult daughter asked whether she could start saying "I love you" to him was a notable experience in his life and strengthened that memory. And the amazing thing was that it wasn't just that time, but all the way to the end. He remembered every week to say "I love you" first. And that, because of that superpower of empathy that I exhibited to get over my anxiety, those were the last 3 words that I got to say to my father the last time I spoke to him. So I want to end with not a superpower, but an invitation to joy that could counteract any lingering anxiety. Anybody know what is one of the most common anxieties? Public speaking, yes. Did you know that public singing is also very high on the anxiety list? Now stand up, because we're all going to sing together.